heat. Can't beat the heat.
Ta-da! We are back on Liquid Lunch, and it's me, Hugh, and I have the mysterious Vanessa to my left, and Hilton Najovic to my far left. And we are here with Jennifer Hough and Daniel Gutierrez. And Daniel, you're from LA. You came in on the plane, the Big Bird, and you're the originator of this conference, the Dialogues of the Heart Conference. And Jennifer, you're bringing it here to Toronto.
I am.
So it's great to have you guys here. And I don't know, where do you want to start? Daniel, I mean, you're advisor to the White House. You're bringing all this stuff to corporate America. And what was the inspiration for this Dialogues of the Heart?
Well, partly, originally, it started out with Don Miguel and I having a conversation in his home. And realizing, I said, you know, well, we should have this conversation online. We should allow people to listen to the conversation. And as I began to evolve in my mind, I work a lot in corporate America, and I realized that in order to create some of the energy shift in our world, we need to get big companies like, you know, Walmart or whatever behind what's going on in our globe, and really giving them the information of what transformation means to them in corporate America, and how can we create that conversation that then gets them behind this movement that can really stop hunger, that can really stop the things that we're seeing in our globe. So the conversation was designed to be spiritual and at the same time have a flair for those in the business arena, those in the corporate arena, to engage in the conversation without being nervous about it or feeling like they had to be PC about it. Yeah.
So that sounds like it's, you know, because a lot of times people talk about that kind of stuff and it sounds spiritual, abstract, airy-fairy, new agey, whatever you want to say. But to bring it to the corporate level is bringing it to the ground where the rubber hits the road, and in a very practical way. But I mean, right now we're as we sit here, there are people in Toronto. It's the Occupy Wall Street movement is all over the U.S. It's here in Toronto.
Sure.
There's protests going on in Greece. There's a lot of people saying, you know, we've got to do something about, you know, how corporations are doing their job, and it's not serving the people. How are you finding corporations and corporate America receiving this conversation?
Well, I think they're a little nervous. However, they're willing to have the conversation. And let me tell you, last week I was in Nebraska, Omaha, Nebraska, and I was hosting a television show and a panel. And one of the things I brought up to him is we were discussing business ethics in corporate America. And there were a long list of words on this research that I had done, but the two words that were not on the list, I asked them about. I said, it's funny that you have things like, you know, social justice, you have things on there like making sure everyone's treated well, and the list goes on and about what business ethics means in that arena. What wasn't on that list? The word trust was not on that list at all. And I said, so how does trust fit into that? And isn't all this a symptom of what you're trying to get, and that's the trust that your employees or people have in your company? And it was a very interesting conversation. One of the things that I enjoy doing is bringing this, you call it whatever, airy-fairy, woo-woo, whatever, into this arena to say, so let's talk about trust and judgment. And I was telling Jennifer that I actually had told him, I saw an angel today. And I called it after the day. I said, I told them I saw an angel. I looked out at the audience and I thought they're going to, whoo, to check me out right there. And they were actually engaged. Like, you know what? Keep talking to us. And I think that they're embracing that there needs to be change. And I think they're embracing that there is a new conversation. And this is just part of that evolution that's happening. The fast-pacedness of what's happening in our globe is just coming quicker and quicker. And they are responding, but not as fast as I think that people would like to see them respond.
Hence the protests.
So,
Yes.
So Jennifer, can you tell me how you got involved with this conference?
Sure. Well, actually, Danielle and I have been friends, I think, for a couple of years now. And there seems to be a real, how do we say it, a Zen fit as far as our philosophies and where we're headed. Dan and I have both been through, I can speak for me personally, have both been through, let's say, a pretty big awakening in the last 20 years, but specifically probably in the last 2 or 3. And the awakening is around understanding who we are as something much greater than simply the relationships we're in and the people we hang around with and the things that we've done in the past. It's waking up and I'm going to say it in a bit of a woo-woo way, it's really that the universe, creation, life sees us a certain way. And as we start to experience ourselves as life sees us, we cellularly shift, our biology shifts. And as a result of that shift, what happens is you just can't see others the same way, you can't see life the same way, and you're truly free. So it's being able to look at people as beautiful and as filled with love and as the purity that they are. And yes, it's shifting me. And I think Danielle and I are probably on the same page in this, in that shift. And I think all of this is very magnetic. It's probably how we met in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just a great deal of flow and joy because the judgment isn't there. Because as we wake up to ourselves, we just have a lot of compassion for each other. And then it's taking that and paying it forward out into the world. And that's really why I'm doing Dialogues of the Heart, particularly in Toronto, which, by the way, is not corporate, just in case it really is a very personal journey into the heart. And so...
but there are people that work for corporations, even at high levels, and they can come and get a personal boost,
absolutely.
right?
You know, I have a friend. It's interesting. I just had that conversation with him. He is very angry at the establishment, let's say. And we had a conversation. I said, what establishment? The establishment is just made up of people.
And reptilian shape-shifting hybrids.
And reptilian shape-shifting hybrids.
It came out.
You had to slide it in there somewhere.
It came out.
All right.
It was going to happen.
But
you did it.
At the same time, as we're emanating the light and the truth of who we are, it cannot help but actually activate the same in others. Even the most reptilian of people are affected by the presence of love.
Every creature.
Hugh.
I got no scales on me.
Glassy eyes.
Take off your jacket. We'll see what's underneath.
Don't worry. You'll never find out I had enough human blood to drink today. Just kidding.
You mentioned the word judgment.
Yes.
What's the opposite of judgment?
Well, one might say acceptance, but I think underneath it all is just pure love, unconditional love. I think beyond acceptance, because acceptance is sort of flat, sort of neutral.
Yeah.
But if you wanted to actually be active, like judgment is an active word. I'm judging you. Well, if you wanted to use the quintessential complementary action, it would be loving someone.
Yes.
Unconditionally, regardless of the circumstance that they held or their lot in life. It's just absolutely pure love. And of course, you can't do that for another unless you're actually doing it for yourself.
Yeah,
So,
And that's where that relationship thing comes in.
Yes.
Not just relationship with others, but relationship with yourself, right?
yes. Well, I think when you start to have that relationship with yourself, what happens is you have a great deal of compassion and a massive sense of humor. And you start to be able to play a little bit more because it starts being less serious because everything is mirroring you and it's just kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's just really kind of funny.
I've heard it said that the only true force and fabric of the universe, fundamental, is love. And that there is nothing else. And everything else that occurs, judgment, any other names you wish to call it, anger, anything, is actually still that, but it's frustrated love. It's love misunderstood. And that love actually has no opposite.
It's a great way of languaging it. Absolutely. It's a great way of languaging it.
It has no opposite at all because it encompasses everything. Sometimes it's merely misunderstood.
It is. Love is everything.
Yeah.
And then human beings came here and we made up the veil, like Don Miguel says, you know, in the Four Agreements. Just we made stuff up to keep it interesting. And now we're no longer interested in the frustration and bashing our head against the wall and really the illusion that we aren't all love. So then what becomes the purpose of life? I mean, if all the struggle goes away and we don't have to justify our existence anymore, what are we going to do?
Let's find out.
And that's exactly it. You go on the adventure and the wonder of life because you don't know. As soon as you're fully in the present, you just don't know what's going to be next. So you just show up.
Yes.
You know, it
And
gets to be
with
fun.
all the differences, woman, man, woman, man, and all of this, then, and if all there is love,
Yeah.
and we're one, yet we're different. How do we reconcile or work with that, play with that, and in that adventure, and before you answer that, I want to turn it over to Daniel as a
Yes.
man speaking of it. I want to hear a woman's perspective, and we're more than just that, yet we're stuck with that too. How do we get through that?
I'm going to go back to judgment for just a minute, because I think that we have to take a step back. Judgment is a result of an expectation that was not met. So when you say, what is the opposite of judgment? To me, it's release. It's releasing the expectation that we have upon someone else. Now, the beautiful thing about that, going back to relationships, is that I call it releasing the chokehold. We have this chokehold on somebody.
Or ourselves.
Well, that
More
comes
often.
back to us.
Yeah.
Is that we look outward and anger or disappointment or resentment or whatever word comes up for you, that this person is acting the way that they're acting, when in essence we're imprisoning ourselves with the same pair of hands,
Yes.
so to speak. And I think that the beauty in that, and part of my my journey over the last few years has been really taking that inward look. Now it sounds, kind of cliche. We're going to go inward, go within or go without. But truly, it's an opportunity to realize that everything on the inside, when you really look at yourself, when you really are willing to look in that mirror and see, I ask my students sometimes, have you ever looked in the mirror so intently that you saw your pupils in the mirror, and then so intently that you saw your own reflection at the same time? Most of us look in the mirror and we very quickly we see the defects of our body, the defects of what we see, but so intently that you're looking so close that you see the reflection of yourself within your eyes. That's starting to take that step away from, when we talk about relationships, it's always about the relationship to self and how that translates itself in how you treat others and how others relate with you. But for me, over the last few years, it's really been about, wow, the wall that I thought I built to protect myself from you is also imprisoned me at the same time. And how do we release that and bring that down, and the expectation that goes with that? I love what Sherry Huber says. Sherry says, true joy is not the trophy wife, trophy husband, trophy car, trophy job. It is compassion turned inward, the end of struggle and the end of competition. And when you can get there, then you find releasement of expectations and release judgment. And you find this incredible way of loving that encompasses all folk, all animals, all people, and those relationships just flow.
Yeah. So how can we improve our relationship with ourselves and others, like in simple ways?
I think the very simplest form is to be willing to take a very much deeper look at who you are. I mean, the very, very basic idea of my existence and learning from others and myself is to look at myself and say, really, for whatever it is, and where did that come from? On my human journey as a child, where did that come? What did that experience teach me? We were talking about that today, and it was just a profound message to me that I grew up in an environment where I was always protecting my family from what the outside world must think of them, because I had a parent that was involved in things they shouldn't be involved in. And how do I protect them? And so that translated itself to today, where I feel like I have to control everything in my world in order to feel like there's nothing's going to leak out that shouldn't be leaking out. And the reason I'm going there is because in that moment I got a window of opportunity to really look at myself in a much different way than I ever had before. Most people will never get there. They're not willing to go there. And that's the beauty of where I think the energy of our globe is going today. My 10-year-old son asked me recently, Daddy, is the world ending in 2012? I mean, he's in 5th grade. Is the world ending? And I had to think about that answer. And this is the way I answered it to him. I said, you know what, son? I think to some people it's going to feel that way, because things are changing and the way that we're going to relate to each other is changing. And to some people, because they won't go there, it's going to seem like the end of the world. But it's really going to be just a new way of living. And he looked at me, I think he got it, that, okay, so nothing's blowing up, exploding, yet a huge opportunity. We have had so many opportunities in the last 10 years in our world to shift our beingness. If we look at, you know, people talk about 2012, since we brought that up, they talk about 2012. What's going to happen? It's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for us to take something. We had 9/11. We had, oh, how about the year 2000? Right? Woo! Everything's blowing up. The sky's falling, right? The billboards. And yet, as human beings, we missed another opportunity. And so this is just another opportunity that's presented itself for us to change.
But you know what's really interesting about the whole idea of 2012 is that the shift is not about, someone just made up 2012. You know, Don Miguel said earlier about, you know, some Mayans just, you know.
They ran out of ink.
They made up, you know.
They were tired.
That's
it.
You know, they made up some
planning,
calendar, you know.
So let someone else take over that.
Sure,
we're
I
done.
mean, we could add whatever meaning we want. It's really just an excuse to know that a shift is happening, and so we've all been asked to go on this journey to see ourselves more. And I don't know about you guys, but I've been dying weekly. I mean, literally, just parts of me are dying weekly so that I can show up as myself. And I keep asking myself, like, really, who am I? Who is this person? And I'm seeing all of what I'm not, and I'm seeing all of who I am. And the adventure is incredible. I mean, the adventure is wondrous. And that's what I think we've said up until this point, the purpose of life is joy. What if the purpose of life is just living it? It's just going on the adventure of living it.
Because there's some times when it's not so joyful.
Sure, but it's juicy, and it's rich, and it's incredible, and it's filled with wonder. And that's a little deeper and more multidimensional than just joyful. Joyful's good, it's included in there. But, you know, as soon as... saying it has to be joyful is a judgment in and of itself. You just polarized your life again, you know, because if it's not joyful, now we're in trouble.
Well, if it's,
Yes?
yeah, I was going to say, well, I mean, if you don't only experience joy, how do you know when you're joyful? You have to experience some lows in order to really appreciate the highs.
In some people's philosophies, you actually have to have the negative to have the positive or the contrast. And what I'm going to say is this. That's actually a human-invented paradigm as well. That's also not necessarily true. You don't actually have to have the dark to have the light. You can just have the light. That's refreshing. Because what we've said is things like you have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. You don't have to have a breakdown to have a breakthrough. You can have a breakthrough without a breakdown. You can actually break through. Have you ever had that? Where you actually break through and learn something, but you didn't have to have something really crappy happen in order to... Right? So
I'm thinking about it.
So you don't have to have yin to have yang. It's just a paradigm we invented to justify misery.
And then once we get beyond it, we can live beyond that. And and I've been thinking most recently about, you know, love and wisdom. And with wisdom, it seems one has to discern opposites and has to choose. What are your thoughts on that, and how is your conference this weekend going to, you know, contribute to that, if at all?
I think it's, well, I think Dan would be a good one to answer that one too, but I think for me, it's just around acceptance. It's around finding acceptance for all that we are, all that we aren't, coming to a common ground and finding peace with ourselves, a sense of love and completion and all of that. And this weekend is really about starting to go on the adventurous journey so that we can be in that co-creative process of blossoming who we are instead of spending the rest of our lives excavating who we aren't. That is boring.
Yeah.
So
I agree with that. And I think that what comes up for me when you said that was the incredible need that we have today for authenticity. You know, what is authenticity all about, and who are we in that authentic definition as individuals and as a whole, and how can we begin to see more of that, which is what I was bringing up with that particular event that I was at. So what about judgment, and what about trust, and how do we get to a more authentic, the occupation is about authenticity. I'm sick and tired of what I'm sick and tired of, but what am I sick and tired of? I don't know. What we're sick and tired of is the lack of authenticity, of the transparency of who we are amongst each other. And that's what's happening and so I think that this weekend, I think that it's an opportunity, if you choose to come, to be authentic in your own self and leave. I tell people, even in corporate America, leave your title at the door. I'm not concerned about your title. I'm not concerned about where you've been. What I would love to see is, can you be here now, in the moment that we're here together, be it an hour, be it 6 hours, whatever it may be, to be together long enough to explore the possibilities of our humanness and our willingness to connect with each other and learn from each other. And that's what I think that we bring to the table, all of us, Eva and Don Miguel and Jennifer and I.
Yes.
Don Miguel said it, all I can do is present who I am.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to present ourselves openly. And it's your choice to decide if you want to dance with us or not.
In presenting yourself, we were talking a bit earlier, I think, and I was asking you if you have a book or you have one coming up. What's the title of it? What was the inspiration for it?
Sure. It's called Stepping into Greatness. Success is Up to You.
Yes.
And this is the second release coming out in February. You can get it on Kindle now. And I wrote the book because many, many years ago, I've come from a crazy background, and I remember being at work one day. I helped build a little company called the Best Buy Company. I helped build that company many, many years ago. And I was in a corporate position, and I walked into my place of business where I was at, and someone said to me, "Must be nice being you in your $700 suits. You walk in here, you bark out orders, and you leave." And I looked at that guy, I went, "What?" No, you didn't. You did not just go there. Me? I said, "Wow." And so I asked the young man out to, it's a kid from LA. I asked him out to lunch, and I said, "Let me share with you who I am." And so I took him to lunch. And so the book came about was for two reasons. One, I wanted people to know that life has not always been the way that I expected it to. And so I always felt that a person who gets in front of a group of people should always let people know what gives them, why they're there. And that was why I wrote the book. I wanted you to know what my journey has been, because it's too easy right now to be an advisor for the Department of White House personnel, to be president of a big organization. All these things, people forget about all that other stuff. And I don't want them to forget that, look, I'm just like you. I don't care what title I have or what suit I wear. I am you, and we are together. And so I wrote the book for that. And so the re-release is coming out in February. And I'm really excited about it.
And why the re-release? You mentioned something
I
specific.
wrote a couple new chapters. There was a story I wrote in the book in the beginning that was called, that was about two boys going to the same schools. They had the same parents, same town, everything. But one grew up changing the world and the other couldn't stay out of his misery, and he was in jail and all these things. And so I used to tell that story as a dichotomy of this is what can happen. And then one day he was murdered. He was shot in the back of the head and left for dead in a closet. And so that was the end of the story. And so I felt compelled to finish that. I felt compelled to go back and say, okay, so it's not even I didn't even
that
put
wasn't
it,
just a boy.
that was my brother. That was my brother. And so I had to go back, and it took me a while to write it, and I finally wrote it, and it's called The End of the Story, and it's before chapter 1. It's before, I couldn't even put a chapter. I said, no, this is the end of the story. So I'm going to take you back to take you forward so that we can go there. And then the last chapter was, okay, so I told you the story about who I am, and you've gotten engaged, but I didn't tell you what's happened since I wrote the book. So let me tell you the wonderful things that can happen from, and I want to touch a little bit on a question that what is suffering about? I have a different idea about what suffering is about. Human suffering, I think, is a purification opportunity to a closer connection to God, a closer connection to Source and universe. And through that process of kneading the clay and pounding it on the potter's wheel to get the bubbles out to make this incredible vase, when I would be happy being an ashtray. You know, God, Source, universe, and angels are creating this beautiful vase. That is the rite of passage that took me to say, I get that. I get that. So the very last chapter in the book talks about, you know what? It hasn't been all that bad. Let me update you on my life. So I ended up updating them on all the great things I'm doing, all the wonderful things I'm doing around the world. And so people can get, okay, it's just not a sad story. It's a sad story to help you understand that we are all the same. I'm no different than you, no matter what it looks like.
Thank you. That's awesome.
Yeah. So now the conference is this weekend. And now, Jennifer, people can still register.
They sure can.
Who would benefit from coming to this event?
The people that would benefit from coming to this event are people who are feeling that sense of urgency inside, like there is something more to life than just what they see. It's beyond the people who are lacking fulfillment. It's really a sense that we were put on the planet let's say, as a piece of the puzzle of the unfoldment of heaven on earth. And we're feeling this sense of call to be our piece of the puzzle of heaven on earth. We might not know what it is. We might not have any clarity on it. We might not really know, anything about it, but we are sure that there's like an anticipatory feeling inside that something is next. It's like it's bubbling inside and you're ready. And I think those people, definitely. And I think there's another group of people who know that more love is possible. That there's just more love possible in their life, that life is much freer, that freedom is a theme, maybe for them, that really being able to truly feel free is something that they're seeking, and that's...
And I want to make sure that we invite the corporate folks, the business folks, all these individuals, because here's what I know is true, that as we go through this transition that we've been going through for quite a long time on our globe, those individuals that work within those structures are needed to wake up, they're needed to stand up, they're needed to connect with their spirituality, to connect to themselves. We need that. We need them to step up and come out and not be afraid. And I had this crazy thought going through Dallas the other day, down this huge escalator where, when someone said the word prophet or something like that, I would think about the white hair and, the white outfit. And like a Moses-looking person, right? And I'm going down this escalator in DFW, and I'm thinking, why can't today's modern-day prophet not be in a suit? They exist. They exist. What we're asking is step out and come out, and let's have a dialogue. Let's talk with each other and realize that in our businesses, authenticity wins. And when we can get to authenticity and we can start having a real conversation about the needs of the human mind, the human condition, which is, by the way, there isn't a corporation out there that can sell anything by itself. It is driven by people. Get back to that, and I think that we can get where we want to go. So I invite them to come out.
Okay, fantastic. And how can they do that? What do they register online or something, Jennifer?
They can register online. They go to www.thevitalu.com, and they'll see the link to the event right there. And they'll just go through. And we've already sold out an aspect of the event, which is happening tonight, a private dinner. And then tomorrow we have a few spots left for tomorrow, which is Saturday, the 22nd. And then Danielle and I are actually doing a workshop on Sunday as well, and you can register for that on the same page.
Fabulous, and I guess all the details are on the site as well,
Absolutely.
Right?
So from 1:30 till 9:30 at Toronto Botanical Gardens.
Fantastic. What a great place to do it, too.
Oh, so beautiful right now. Just gorgeous.
So thank you guys for coming in. Daniel, great to meet you.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for having us on.
And I would say that to you too, Jennifer, but I've already known you.
Yes, we have. We've had lots of fun.
Jennifer, I just have to comment, though. I'm looking at your card here, and your first statement is get out of your own way.
Yes.
And your website, The Law of Awakening.
Yes.
How did that happen for you, The Law of Awakening?
Well, because initially I ran a very large nutrition practice, and people, with respect to health, truly believe that it's all about changing the food you put in your body to have the physiology change, when in reality the biochemical soup that you swim in is entirely dependent on the way that you perceive life. So until you change this, it doesn't matter as much what you eat as it does, because the chemicals will govern what plays out in your genetics. And so how I came to awakening is through that. If I really wanted to assist people, I had to assist them to wake up to who they are as an extension, as the universe's idea. I mean, if you were the universe's idea, what if you could get in complete congruence with who you came here to be? Well, then your physiology would necessarily have to entirely line up. And so awakening is all about having the cellular experience of who you are and truly being free of all the masks. And so that's how it happened. And it was a personal transformation as well. It really was a personal awakening, because I had migraines, and until I actually saw who I was, the migraines kept being the knock on the head, literally. This is not who you are. You're not the pressure that your parents put on you. You're not the perfectionism. You're not any of that.
Yes.
You're something much bigger. And as soon as that came, the migraines went. So.
Okay, I'd like to make a comment, because I work with energy, and I want to say to whoever works with energy, the interplay between you two is incredible. Like, just amazing. Like, you talk and my energy goes up, and then Jennifer speaks, and like, okay, I'm grounded. Okay, I can function better. You know, it's just incredible. So I encourage any, especially people who work with energy, come to the event because you'll just be blown away.
Oh, thank you.
Okay, guys, thanks a lot for doing this today.
Thanks, team.
TheVitalU.com, and we're going to take a little break and come back. Marky Wheels is in the house, and we're going to have a conversation right after this here on Liquid Lunch, ThatChannel.com.
I want to thank you for
into it. Marky Wheels, are you going to be playing a specific song or?
Yeah, I'm going to be playing an original called Tickle My Mind. Yeah, I'm just dancing on rain. Yeah, I'm just playing in your mind. Time for a holiday. 100,000 rainbows painted by design. humble, yeah, it's just fine. I got a reason for living. I'm just fueled with love. I got a reason, believe it. Time to reason above with 100 million rainbows painted by design. Clouds may rumble and mountains tumble. Yeah, that's just fine. Come and tickle my mind. Time to find a new beginning. Time to end in the end. Time to lose all those innings. Time to count it out again. Right. Time to find a new religion. One that's timeless and new. Time to end the deception. Time to find out what is true. It's up to you! Oh, what to do? Round and round and round we all go, deeper into the hole. Round and down and all around, never lose control, never lose the soul.
Welcome back to Liquid Lunch, the extended Friday version. And hey, we got Marky Wheels here. Marky, actually, it's great to meet you. And
thank you.
And now you're personal friends with Hilton here.
Hey, Hilton.
Hey,
right?
Marky.
Yes, yes.
And I don't know how we want to start this conversation. We've been talking about some great stuff, but you know.
Let me. Right now, this is a dream day for me, in having you here, Marky. We met 5 years ago.
Yep.
You know, coincidentally.
Nothing happens by coinkydink.
And it was really a sweet moment, and it remains a sweet moment for, I imagine, the rest of my life. I was going through dark times. My wife took, very ill, and this one night I was walking up Yonge Street, and just saw this man talking to people on Yonge Street, going, "Hi, nice smile, nice walk," and it touched me so much that I wanted to walk. I was walking past you, and I was stopped in my tracks, and I had to turn around.
Yep.
And came back. And I asked if I could introduce myself, and we started on this conversation that I thought would last 5 minutes, and I think it was 6 hours.
That all depends on your definition of time.
So with that, there's been an incredible journey knowing you, and thank you for being my friend and coming into my life.
Thank you.
And for being here today. And I want and the part that's a dream is, as rich as our friendship has been, I really want more of the world to have a chance to know. For me, your heart, your courage is that of a billion men. And you're humble.
I look at it this way. Life is full of mystery.
Yeah.
You just got to look for it. Too many people are stuck in yesterday. They're stuck in the past. They're just repeating it over and over and over. It's just another day. It's just another Monday. It's just another Friday. It's useless. Yesterday and tomorrow are useless. It's gone, and it hasn't happened yet. Eternity is right now. It's what you make and don't make with it. It's all about sharing. It's all about giving, not about taking. When I was in high school, I mean, I was born like this. 4-way amputee by birth, government experimentation. 1960s were a strange time period. And my mind, my spirit has always been a little different than everybody else's. Not to mention I grew a mustache before any of my friends did.
Good thing you weren't a girl.
Let's not go there. No distract me, love.
No.
And I was always bothered by superficial, phony baloney. And I started realizing the duality in the universe. First of all, the universe is within you. And out there, the heavens and the heaven are the same thing, full of empty space. 99% of it is empty. Nothing. Less than nothing. So you got 1% to deal with. The earth is a living organism. Just like your body is made up of organs and so many cells, one cell starts going kaputski, we call that cancer. Well, the whole idea is to work together as one organism, one entity, one group. The key to that, well, there's a couple that I've personally discovered. Now, I haven't written any books or anything. I travel the world and I don't know, preach, teach, sing, whatever you want to call it. Roughly about 30-odd countries, 140 cities. I've been as far as the Caspian Sea in Iran. Watched a hotel in Beirut get blown up. All kinds of neat stuff. Met a stranger on a train who ended up taking me on a knapsack up to the Andes to his place for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Just total stranger. That's the mystery of life.
Yeah.
Now, of course, then I had children. I had to kind of slow down my reality a bit and, well, change gears, let's say, for my 3 daughters. I always thought being born with no feet was great, and then the good Lord made me up the difference of never having to buy shoes with 3 daughters. But the keys that I've discovered is that more and more I find people getting away from the natural and more into the plastic, more into the superficial, more into the facade, the mirage. There is no truth. There is no knowledge. Knowledge is just empirical data that you can make heads or tails out of. It's if you take that knowledge and apply it positively, there's the wisdom. So I try to adhere to the wisdom, not the knowledge. The next thing I notice is that everybody is obsessed with money. In greed we trust. It's a piece of paper that if you actually compare the logistics of our economic system and the practices of business, it's strangely not unlike schizophrenia. We are delusional and believing in an unreal thing like money. But the problem with that is because we lose value. We put everything on a price. So instead of having the concept of money, it should be back to the truth, back to the innocence and wisdoms of existence and being, not the practicing of doing. Then I noticed that we all seem hung up on time. This elusive little creature we can never catch, but is waiting for us at the very end of our own. And I realized, no, there is no past. There is no future. There is no linear time. Like we're always taught at school, so-and-so born, died. Empire started, ended. Time is not linear. Time is non-existent. It's just a concept we made to excuse our actions. We have to take that and go back to love. Because time doesn't tell us anything that we're running out of. Love is the only key that keeps us going. And finally, I mean, you got your need is the ultimate. If you have your wisdom, if you have your truth, and if you have your love, then you have your needs. You have everything you need. But if you believe in want, well, then you're going to be doomed through time, through money, and through knowledge.
Yes.
And needs are simple. Companionship, somebody to care for, something to care about. Well, water and food, obviously, and shelter. The essence is beautiful. A vehicle for mobility could be as simple as a skateboard. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as a Rolls Royce.
You know, when we first met that first night, we ended up talking, saying, well, let's go out and find a restaurant and have a drink together. And I was concerned for you, you know, yeah, and I was out of breath keeping up with you in that chair. You're like a race car driver.
Have to jump on the back.
I
I won't
never
put the
thought
meter
of
on.
that.
I won't put the meter on.
Never thought of that.
And then so as I got older, I took those 4 concepts and I said, well, there's got to be an easier way to figure this whole thing out. And then I realized it. I don't know. I woke up one morning at 2 or 3 in the morning with the answer in my head. The true key to success, thankfulness. Everybody's misery, or whatever you want to put the verbiage, is because they're making expectations. So if you be thankful for what you have, and just move on with what the crap you don't have, accept the crappy. That'll make you happy. Okay? It will. That's why we have crappy moments, to elevate and escalate to a higher plane. Or you can just sit there in the valley of doom. It's your choice. It's all about choices. So you have to have thankfulness. Got to be thankful. Practice thanks. Then you have your love. And then you have, well, then you have everything.
Yeah.
Love is energy. I mean, there's no positive or negative about it. It's just what you choose to be and how
do you do
are
that
with
all
it.
the time? Because I just see you always loving, even when I know stuff you shared with me, and it's tough.
Well, right now, admittedly, this is probably the worst year in my existence. I've had a medical, my wife had a medical situation, and I've since lost power of attorney. Haven't seen my daughters since Canada Day. And my 3rd generation cat is dying. But that's life.
Yeah.
To quote John Lennon, life is what happens while you're busy making other plans. Now, you can sit there and mope and do whatever the hell you want. It's still not going to change anything.
Yeah.
So you take that energy and apply it. You got to move on. I mean, the one thing we all share, birth is fatal.
Yeah. I wanted to ask, like, who inspires you? I mean, you are so positive. You mentioned you touch on expectations and thankfulness. Where do you get that energy from?
I've read, when I was younger, several books on philosophy, theology. I've read 7 different versions of the Bible. I even translated on my computer the original Greek and Hebrew texts. Personally, myself, I'm Christian. Personally, my idol, my guru is Jesus himself. But only my personal opinion. I'm not here to, persuade anybody. I mean, Buddhism has very similar philosophies, but just through my own practices, it's Christ Jesus. That's why we have it the year 2011. It wasn't after assassinating Muhammad. It wasn't after, canceling the 3 Stooges. Right? But that's my own personal opinion. The essence of what he spoke and taught, however, is no different than in the Old Testament and Moses, in the Buddhist mantras, and the basic essence and element, what we've come to call the dogma of religion, is all the basic same premises of philosophy we all share. But the moment you put an ism on it, a movement it will not make.
Mark, I want to ask you, because you've been here where we had the other conversations with Daniel, and we're talking about 2012, we're talking about dialogues of the heart and all that sort of thing.
Just for clarification, I've really been bugged. I see all the time, not to mention that one individual from California that says today is doomsday. Again, that's the problem with cults. They get sidetracked away from the now, away from the moment. They start proclaiming gloom and doom. That's not what God is about. That's not what love is about. That's not what the energy is about. If there is to be an end time, nobody's going to know it. And it's not the end of the world. If you're very careful with your reading, it's the end of times as we know it. It's the judgment day. It is the final hour. 1,000 years later, that's when everything blows up. That's when it's the day of reckoning. So right now, we are in a time shift. And I believe it's because of the fallacies of religion. That and politics, if we all unite it, but here's where it gets dangerous. Who's going to be doing the uniting? Unfortunately, history has revealed too many times it's always the tyrants and the despots that take over. And they start out nice, and everybody's lovey-dovey until it disagrees with somebody else's platform. And it's a very dangerous time period. And I think that's what's meant by the end of times, that certain, like for example, it's a Christian calendar. Even though the Islams and other nations and cultures still refer to 2011, I believe things like Christmas, Easter, Ramadan, all these holidays, and the calendar especially, are going to change within the next few years. That will be the end of times. I do believe there will be an entity that takes over the world. It will not be pleasant times. I do believe that the world is coming to a we are already on the brink of destruction. We have the power to destroy or rebuild. And if we just think of our thanks and forget about our wants, it's not that hard to love.
No.
You know, everybody makes a point of, whether it's in school, oh, be on my team, the competition, oh, I don't want them on my hockey team. It already comes back to competition and dividing us, and oh, well, you're Jewish and you're Christian and you're Islamic. No, 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 man. We're all people.
Yeah.
Some are just a little furrier.
So
But Mark, what happens when Jesus comes back?
Simple. All hell breaks loose. In my beliefs, there's a few things that still have to happen which have not happened. Israel has to have a few years of peace. Solomon's temple has to be rebuilt, so on and so forth. So this cannot be doomsday.
Will those things will there be a doomsday though, or
absolutely? To every beginning there is an end. Absolutely.
But we're trying.
Whether this planet goes corrupt in a few days or goes corrupt in a few billion years, and we're not here to witness it, that is the nature of reality.
But here we are, okay?
Yes.
Now, sure, things come to an end, but we are all alive here and now. We're talking about.
I don't know, are we?
Well,
see, my concept is this is all just kindergarten.
Okay, here's my point and my question. We've seen the people here today. People are working.
Yes.
If they take your advice, and people, you know, all realize that we're all people, we all try to work together, we all try to, then maybe we can avoid that corruption, or maybe we can't. But anyway, today we can avoid it.
See, essentially, I know what I'm about to say may sound fatalistic, but it's actually quite optimistic. I believe that the Bible, or the Talmud, the Torah, these books of importance that we've weighed such great value to our future, was a time machine given us by the author that created the universe itself as proof of his own existence. I mean, in the Bible, there's over 500 predictions, well, sorry, over 300 predictions that have already come true. One of my favorites is the Old Testament, when Cyrus the Great was handed a letter that was written 127 years before he was born, directed, addressed to him, which is why, well, I'll leave you viewers and so on to look that one up. But that's just one really interesting prophecy. I'm not even going to go to the prophecies of Jesus. But strangely, there's more prophecies about the Antichrist than Jesus himself. Things to look out for. I welcome anybody, don't take my word for it, do your own digging. You'll need a really big shovel, though, and a very open mind and an incredibly open heart. Because if you're stuck on, even if you're on the right track and you stand still long enough, splat, you're going to get run over by an oncoming train. So it's knowing what to do with the information and applying it and being it. So here comes the fatalistic part. Yes, in my opinion, the world as we know it, the times that I mean, you look at it, we did not reach 1 billion people on the planet until 1836. 120 years later, we've doubled. And roughly every 20 years until the 1970s, and now it's down to about every 8 to 10 years where we're adding another billion to the planet. Mm-hmm. Why do they release such information, and who's doing the releasing? Because they want us scared. They don't want them. The masters of power do not believe in love. They do not believe in truth. They have no consideration of wisdom. They're in it for their own personal profit and gain at the expense of everything else, which is why we are seeing the uprisings in the world with the Occupy, here and there, and the revolutions around the world. God bless them in peace, Gaddafi, Bin Laden, Saddam Hussein, the Hitlers of our world. We need them too. We all have the potential of being a Hitler or a Gandhi. But without Hitler, there would have been no Israel. So how do you define good and bad? In terms of value? In terms of our own personal peace? Or in terms of our future?
Well,
so deep it's light.
Yes, we don't know what to say.
But okay, so yeah. Now, so if you look at the Bible and you look at some Christian theology, and I'm not sure if it's the one that you subscribe to.
I don't believe in any religion per se. I just believe in the Bible.
Sure. So the Bible, does it not? I mean, if it does speak about an apocalypse, an end, which would happen with the return of Christ.
The tribulation, the rapture.
Yeah. And the rapture is supposed to be today, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Doomsday. Yeah, right about now.
But what does that mean?
3.
What does that mean for people who are really trying to change the world?
Still here? Woo! Yes.
For people who are trying to make a difference and trying to have a good impact, and try to avoid the people, those power seekers, to create a world that they can live freely in.
I don't know if necessarily to avoid. I would actually say the opposite, to confront them. Instead of being passive little puppets, instead of, we are the 99% that the 1% depend on. Without, the consumers, without the people that are purchasing their garbage, we wouldn't be, partly in the mess we're in. And I'm not here to poke any fingers at any big companies, but there's enough in the news. All you gotta do is open your eyes. If you don't like something, stop buying it. If you don't like company ABC, then don't buy their product. Let other people know, well, this is no good because of this reason.
Okay. Do you subscribe to this? So in one of the prophecies is no man shall buy or sell without the mark of the beast.
Look at the RFID chip.
Right. Okay. Now, for people who are for people who are Christians who want to live a life, for people who are trying to do good in the world that don't want to be part of that system, yet it's a prophecy that's going to come to pass. What would you tell people who are trying to deal with that?
Why are you afraid of dying? Like I say, this is just kindergarten. This isn't even real. This is 99% nothing. This is the testing grounds before reality hits. I mean, there was already, in every religion, you'll get this. There's so many similarities rather than differences. There's already been a war in heaven. Now think about it. I don't mean to put ourselves in place of God in this moment, but just hear me out. If you had the ability to make an entire universe and a creature such as ourselves, would you want all the evil back in your kingdom? Or would you want somebody like, say, the devil to weed out the weaklings so the battle doesn't repeat itself? So then true existence, true living begins. This is just the dream. I say to those that are true Christians, and the time will come, gladly lay your head on the line. Because it's not about saving a group of people. You can only save your soul. Hence SOS, save our souls. No particular group, whether it's the Catholics, or the Islams, or the Jews, or the Christians, or whomever. It's like that joke my dad said. This guy dies and goes to heaven. St. Peter says, hey, you want to tour the place? It's kind of big and you're going to be here a while. Great. And they're going along, and all of a sudden there's a bunch of Buddhists and Anglicans playing volleyball together. And he's kind of shocked, and St. Peter goes, well, they were devout in their particular belief and they gave good. And he turns the corner and there's a bunch of Jewish people and old Tibetan monks playing chess together. Then they came around the corner and there's this giant wall that never ends, and St. Peter leaned forward and goes, those are the non-doers. I'll let you figure the rest out.
Okay. Well, that's a fabulous, Mark. Why don't we just leave it there for now? And Hilton, I don't know what you want to, how you want. It looks like actually Vanessa wants to say something, and let's give everybody a chance for some last words here.
Hi, Vanessa.
Hi, Mark. This is probably the third time I've seen you. Right? I saw you playing on Spadina and Dundas before.
Yep, Chinatown, my shady corners.
Chinatown, exactly. I just wanted to get a picture of what you see happening. Like this Occupy is happening all over, right? And I believe, and other people have said that we can do this together.
Yes.
And that you only need a few people, let's say 10 or 20% of the population, to change their way of being, and then the rest will follow.
Yes.
So what is your viewpoint? Do you believe that? Do you think that's something that'll happen?
Sure. I mean, look at Gandhi. Look at the revolution that happened in India. And absolutely, look at the power of Jesus when he was on the planet. However, we have to be realistic. History has also shown us it doesn't usually last very long. Because ultimately, absolute power corrupts absolutely. Whomever, whatever it's an individual or a group, over time, unless there's something to drastically replace the system that we've been using for 5,000 years, we're going to repeat ourselves again. It's just a matter of when and how. And ultimately, like I said, you have to start from within. If you don't like company ABC, don't buy their products. Move on, find something positive. instead of necessarily criticizing company ABC, maybe you like company XYZ better for whatever reasons. Great. But like I say, ultimately, as long as we keep believing in time and money and the other essences of wants, we are doomed to repeat ourselves. And it is within our creature, within our being, within our entity of existence, that duality. Now, whether you want to go esoteric and religiously, say between, you know, heaven and hell, we're kind of that middle ground, or, you know, scientifically on the verge of a new evolutionary creature stemming out of this. I'm also very worried that, I mean, if we look at just one quick thing, it's 2011. Let's remind ourselves that humanity's been on the planet for 5,000 years plus. And yet 100 years ago, we had no petroleum, no highways, no modern medicine, no technologies whatsoever, no world wars. It's amazing how bloody well we managed to get through the first 40,000 years, let alone the last 5,000. We have become dependent on too many things. We have become less independent, not only individually, but as groups, as a society. We've divided ourselves. We've become too serious. Now, granted, I have a serious side too. It's my left. And, but that's the thing. They take themselves too seriously. They're stuck in a moment, like U2 would sing, okay? And that's the essence, is moving forward. But if you're going to be doing it in the same steps, then you're really not moving forward at all. You're just kind of moving in the same direction, looking at it differently. To truly move forward, it's going to take all of us to really make the difference. And everybody's expecting, you know, snap of a finger. It's not going to be like that, you know. And that's part of the illusion too. Everybody was all freaked out about the Y2K 2000. Like I said a year earlier, no, it's not going to happen in 2000. It'll happen near the end of the year, the following year. And I was right, regrettably, 9/11. Just like I'm telling everybody, it's nothing going to happen in 2012. Oh yes, the stages of it have already begun. Back in the 80s, it's already begun. We will see a drastic change, probably 2013. By 2017, it'll be enforced. And my guess is by 2030, there won't be much to talk about anymore. We will either have hit that next plane of existence, or we will have doomed ourselves and the rest of the planet. I really don't see us going past 2030. By 2030, we're expected to hit 10 billion people. Aside from the food problems, aside from the environmental problems, aside from the political and religious indifferences, the hatred will be overwhelming and consuming. So the love, the truth, the need, and the wisdom, that will be your key to your inner peace, inner happiness, and above all, thankfulness. Be thankful that, like I know it sounds crazy. I'm thankful that my wife got brain damage. I'm thankful that my daughters and my family have separated. I don't have a choice. Well, I guess I did have a choice. I could have been miserable about it, but that's not a real choice. I can take that energy and apply it. Okay? I can take negative energy, all of us can, and apply it. I'm going to give you an example. There's an old lady with her stroller crossing the street. All of a sudden, this big punk with his mohawk and his leathers comes running and smashes her over onto the sidewalk. Is that good or bad?
Depends on how you look at it.
Is it good or bad? There's no if. If is in the middle of life. Would you just, on open, would you say that was good or a bad thing that that punk did?
I'll say it's bad.
Okay. I'm not saying
Why do we have to decide?
What if I told you that that punk saved her because there was an oncoming truck and he just got splattered? See, we made a distinction in our minds of the old lady and the punk, and right away we make something that isn't. So we have to be very careful when we read the news the same way. You know, we get bombarded by negative, negative, negative. Oh, we have to follow the trends of what the rock stars and the musicians in the fashion industry and this and that. Meh. Wrong answer. We need to follow the value within. And it's easy. Everybody has it. I guarantee you. Without the essence of power, because see, when people have power, then they have control. And then they don't like to get rid of it. And that's usually where murder and mayhem begin. The key is there should be no world leaders. There should be no prime ministers. There should be no popes. We should all just be one. Because the moment we put all these distinctions, we've lost our individuality, we've lost our existence, we've lost our perceptions, we've lost our perspective. And that's where it's going to get dangerous, because this world is destined to become global, one, a new world order. But I mean, it's nothing surprising. All I got to do is look at the history of 1933. Coca-Cola invents Santa Claus. Hitler becomes Chancellor of Germany. And the United States, under Roosevelt, revealed to the world their golden seal, Novus Ordo Seclorum, a new order to society. It's something that's already been going on and in the makings for a very, very long time. It's just now that the sheeple are starting to feel it and see it and hear it. And beware of the wolves.
Yes.
But that's not what you do. And in,
No, I preach positive. I mean, it's kind of funny. My music, my music is very, it's kind of like ABBA. The music's very upbeat, but if you listen to the lyrics, it's kind of like, whoa, hardcore. Like,
and you're doing your music generally every weekend, still at Spadina and
God willing
Dundas?
and weather permitting. Dundas and Spadina, southwest corner. I'm also online, Marky Wheels, M-A-R-K-Y, Wheels.
Yes.
YouTube. Just Google me. I love being tickled.
Awesome.
Marky
and
Wheels.
you even respond back in email and.
I have been known to do that on occasion.
Yeah,
yes.
I've gotten emails from you and calls. There's so many things I've been amazed about that I can't even begin to disclose now. But in my relationship with you, I also remember you wanting to get your music, written and published.
Absolutely.
And maybe some of your stories.
Absolutely.
And none of us know how long we're here for.
Look, Ma,
and
no hands.
You expressed also. You don't know that you're here for a long time.
Does anybody know how long they're here for?
Right.
Did you pick your birthday?
Nope.
Can you stop a hair from changing or falling out?
Don't think so.
Nope.
So with that, I want to encourage anyone, all that are listening, if they have a connection here and see a way of wanting to work with and collaborate with Marky in getting his music out, his books out, his stories.
Just remember one thing.
Yeah.
We're human beings, not human doings.
Okay.
There's lots we can do, though.
All right. Marky, great to have this conversation.
And Hugh,
thank you for
next
doing
time,
this today.
and all of yous, just remember, you are all, I want you to say this with me. I am awesome. And without me, it would just be also.
I am awesome.
And without me, it would just be also.
With also.
Also.
Take the yabby off the end.
Glad we didn't get that on camera.
We could try it again.
All right.
Very cool.
Okay, thanks, Mark.
Was that okay?
That was awesome.
Too deep, too light?
Awesome, not
Excellent.
also. Okay.
Perfect.
That's it for the show today, everybody. Thank you, Hilton. Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you, Stu. Thank you, all our guests. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Hugh.
And thanks, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back on Monday for more Liquid Lunch right here on ThatChannel.com. See you then.
That channel. Today.
Groovy.
Groovy.
That was wonderful.